Hour number 2 of the program. We welcome you into the lunch break. We've got you covered. To the top of the hour, Jim Rome takes over. 1 o'clock, 1 to 4. Start your drive home with the Jim Rome Show. You got the Rooster, 5 to 6 tonight, the Sports Zoo. We've got you covered here for the last hour of the lunch break, and we dive back into some basketball. We spent hour number 1 talking about maybe we need to get T-shirts made. The big red button in the middle for the Phoenix Suns, meaning trading Kevin Durant, admitting that this was a failure, starting over, admitting defeat here. But if they choose to press on, there are a couple of different ways they can do that. There is the big move, and we all know who that big move is. That would be finding somebody to take on Bradley Beal's contract. That would mean acquiring Jimmy Butler. That would mean extending Jimmy Butler. And that would mean a new era of Suns basketball that is Kevin Durant, that is Devin Booker, and that is Jimmy Butler. Those 3. That's the big fish. There is the small tweak, which is trying to shed yourself of Jusuf Nurkic's contract and adding a center like Nick Richards. That's a small tweak. That is a on-the-margins move. That would be, I love a good cross-sport analogy that we can make. I love when we can look at one team here in town and compare it to something else that another team did. The small tweak, Nick Richards, would be like trading for Baron Browning at the trade deadline if you're the Cardinals. The Cardinals chose not to go big fish. Now, the two teams were at different points of their franchise life cycle, but they didn't go the big fish route. They went small tweaks, add depth, add on the margins. Nick Richards would be that on the margins move for the Phoenix Suns. It doesn't wholesale change their roster. It doesn't massively change the way that they operate. It's just a different, fresh face at a position that's been somewhat of a problem. Or they do nothing at all and they try to see this through with this group. So those are your 3 choices. The big fish, Jimmy Butler, trading Bradley Beal. The small tweak on the margins, and maybe it's not Nick Richards, maybe it's somebody else, but just the different approach would be small tweaks on the margins, just try to increase the floor a little bit. That's option 2. And then option 3, nothing at all. Which path would you take? You've watched this team for 38 games. You've seen the ups and downs. You've seen the highs, the lows, the good, the bad. You've watched this team when everybody is healthy and everything is firing on all cylinders. You've also seen this team when nothing appears to be working. We've watched this team have to hit the break glass in case of emergency and move Bradley Beal and Nurkic to the bench. We've watched them completely remove Jusuf Nurkic from the lineup. We've seen it all. We have seen it all in 38 games. Which path would you choose? Which path makes the most sense? And that answer requires you to answer another question. What you think is still possible for this team, for this core, for this group? Do you still believe a championship is on the table? Do you still believe a Western Conference final appearance is on the table? Or is this a scenario now where it's really just making the playoffs is what's on the table? If you think this team has championship aspirations still on the table, that is still possible for this team, then I think you would be in the big fish camp of get rid of Bradley Beal, get out of the Bradley Beal business, enter the Jimmy Butler business, although I'm not sure that that's a business that I would want to be in. The headache that it looks like Jimmy Butler can be at times, not sure that that's where I would want to be. But okay, you make that move, you keep Kevin Durant happy, you extend the window a little bit because Butler's going to sign an extension. You know Durant is going to sign an extension. You can rid yourself of Bradley Beal's long-term money, and you can try to give this a go over the next couple of seasons. If you think that is truly possible, then that's the path that you can take. If you're not sure, if you don't want to completely give up, but you want to at least try to see this season through, then you are team small tweaks. Small tweaks don't hurt you long term. Small tweaks don't impact your ability to hit the big red button in the offseason. Small tweaks don't impact 2025, 2026 Phoenix Suns basketball looking different, and maybe Matt Ishbia figuring out that this isn't the way to build a basketball team in 2025. That's the camp that you would fall in. If you think 100% this is over, the playoffs are barely on the table, if at all, these players are getting older, it's done. They tried, they gave it an effort for the last 2 seasons, but it is done. Then you are team, they should do nothing. In fact, you might be team trade Kevin Durant, trade Devin Booker, trade Bradley Beal. Completely hit that reset button in the middle of the table. That's it. To answer that question of what the Suns should do, you need to answer what you think is possible for this team. I don't blame you if you want to be in the camp of seeing this through, but not making big wholesale changes. And you want to make moves on the margins. I get that. I get you maybe wanting to see it through. I get you being done with this team and wanting to move on completely. I can understand and resonate with both of those camps. I oscillate between the two camps on a pretty regular basis here on this show. The place I can't get to is thinking this team still has a championship in sight, a Western Conference final in sight. You look at the talent on paper, and you're supposed to see a team that can win a championship. But I haven't seen it. And it's not just that I haven't seen it for 38 games this year. I didn't see it last year either. I have a year and a half now, basically. A couple games into this road trip, we'll be past the midway point. I have a year and a half of this not working. I watched you get swept in the first round last year. I've watched what you've done this season. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know things aren't going well if you have to take 2 members of your starting lineup and move them to the bench. That's not good. That's not indicative of a team that still is looking towards a championship. Now, the tweaks are working. I will explain one big way that they're working here in about 25 minutes or so. But I can't see how you're in that camp anymore. I can't see a way where that is where you sit on January 14th. I can understand you saying, listen, there's still something there. Kevin Durant, still very talented, having a great season. Devin Booker feels like he's coming out of whatever has plagued him at the start of the season. The move to the bench for Bradley Beal appears to be working a little bit. I just want to see this through. We'll make some tweaks. We'll get a different center in there. We'll try to maybe add some depth where we can. We want to see this through, but not make a big move. I can understand that. I can get on board with that. But I can also get on board with you saying, I'm done. I'm not getting sucked in again one more time. It's not happening. I watched it for 38 games this year. I watched it all of last year. I remember what happened against Minnesota. I'm good. I've seen enough. I don't need to see the 4th or 5th installment of a movie series that the first one wasn't any good anyway. I don't want to throw an entire franchise of movies under the bus here by throwing one out. But think of your movie series that everybody else probably likes, but you're like, nah, I'm not so sure, and they've made about 100 of them. That's what the Phoenix Suns are. I don't need to see the 4th or 5th or 6th installment. I don't. I'm good. I am good. Now, there are a bunch of different ways for you to consume this show. We've talked about the app. There's the traditional radio in your car, AM 1060. You got us on the HD side of things, 100.7 HD2. But there's also the YouTube, the live video version. And I've told you many times before, you can join the show 480-864-1060. You can also join us on YouTube. And if you come to the table, and now you got to bring it, but if you come to the table with a good comment, I'll get it on the show. So Estevan is in the YouTube chat, and he left 2 comments. I'm going to pair them together because I think this is a great point. Jimmy Butler wouldn't be a good fit. There's only one basketball. And yeah, that's a tough puzzle to put together. And let's face it, the third member of this big three, as it currently was constructed, got moved to the bench. So do you expect Jimmy Butler to come in there and immediately gel right away. Might be some friction. And let's face it, this team's running out of time. They don't get that wiggle room. And the second comment is they've traded all their assets. They have no depth. Now, I don't know if I look at the Phoenix Suns, Estevan, and I think their problem right now is a lack of depth. It's certainly a problem for sure. They are built in a way, as we mentioned in hour number one, the way other teams are not. They have a big three, and because of that, they don't have the depth that other teams have. But let's face it, the reason why they're in this mess is because when the big three were on the floor together, it wasn't working. Devin Booker didn't look like the player that we have come to expect. Kevin Durant trying to do everything in his power, but couldn't get it done. Tyus Jones hasn't really lived up to the expected billing, but he was brought in to be a point guard. Ryan Dunn off the bench has been great. Royce O'Neal is back healthy. That's a bench piece. They have a rotation that they can go to. Their problem is they have built this around three guys. And because of injuries or because it's just not working on the court, they don't have the results to back it up right now. And so you may think Jimmy Butler is the solution. I don't know. I think that would just be a different look. That would be a franchise reboot if we want to keep using this movie analogy. That would be a franchise reboot with a different director, but it ultimately is going to feel the same. It's going to end the same way. You're going to be disappointed by it. So those are the three paths. You can go for the big fish, you can make the small tweaks on the margin, or you can do nothing and accept the reality of this situation and truly confront what that looks like. Those are your three paths. And how you answer that question is a direct reflection of what you think this team is still capable of.